Good evening, Kate. The French government has already enacted an emergency stimulus package worth some 110 billion euros. How much further could it go?
Well, as far and as long as it takes, that's what the Finance and Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire seemed to suggest this morning, speaking to BFM TV. He says the government's plan to protect the economy has so far been mostly successful, despite GDP shrinking 5.8% in the first quarter. That was the worst performance since World War II. He says phase two is supporting businesses, especially the sectors that aren't able to open yet, like restaurants and the tourist industry. Phase three will be a more wide-reaching plan to revive economic activity. That's set to be unveiled this fall, although a lobby of small and medium-sized businesses says that should in fact come much sooner. Le Maire really underscoring that France needs to get back to business with, of course, the appropriate health and safety guidelines in place. Now, one of the big questions is how long the government will continue its massive partial unemployment or state-sponsored furlough program. 6 in 10 private sector workers are on it at the moment. It sees up to 84% of their salary or full minimum wage paid by the government. 12.2 million French people is the latest figure for people participating in the program. It's so far cost the government around 24 billion euros. The Labour Minister, Muriel Pénicaud, has confirmed that cannot go on forever. She says the scheme will be gradually reduced from the 1st of June, either reducing the percentage of paycheck that's covered or who's eligible for the program, or perhaps both. The scheme was supposed to reduce large-scale layoffs, and it's been largely successful so far. But of course, weaning companies off of this support is going to be tricky because they need to start actually making money in order to be able to maintain their payrolls. France also pushing for a European stimulus package, about 1 trillion euros worth of state-backed loans to help rebuild those regional economies as they begin easing lockdown restrictions. There's really a mix of urgency here to get funds where they need to go imminently to prevent collapse, and a sense that the recovery from a business and economic standpoint is going to take much, much longer than analysts had initially predicted. A poll suggests that only around 40% of French business leaders currently think they'll be back at full production capacity by the end of this year.
Now, Kate, this week the government will be holding talks with the auto industry about emergency support and essentially what the future holds.
Absolutely. It's one of the 3 industries that's been singled out as needing special support going ahead, along with aviation and the tourism industry, which includes restaurants as well. Negotiations are set to begin this week. We know that Renault is already set for about a 5 billion euro loan. Bruno Le Maire saying that the government will be encouraging car makers to bring more production back to France in exchange for financial support. Of course, the first signs of trouble for the industry came at the beginning of this year, when the virus shut down many factories in China, shining a spotlight really on how many car makers, including here in France, are dependent on parts that come from halfway around the world. Le Maire said producers would also be encouraged to pick up the pace of their transition to more environmentally friendly motors. There were similar conditions to the government's 7 billion euro loan package for Air France, which is being asked to reduce pollution. The Macron administration trying to make sure that the current crisis doesn't result in a backsliding on its environmental goals.
Kate, thank you very much for the update. Kate Moody reporting.